Okay, so first things first, the channel. I'm not going to unfortunately be able to cover Tampa Bay, Carolina. I will just kind of summarize where I think we lost the series. Games 1 and 2 when we failed to score on Andre Vasilevsky, and then when we had a chance to tie the series and Tampa Bay came back. That was kind of it. I mean, that's where I really feel like Carolina lost things for the team. So, um, oh shoot, I cut my toe open. I slipped and everything, but yeah, it's not ideal. I just noticed that, so that's gonna stay in. Fuck it. So yeah, but yeah, and then next season I'm gonna try to cover all 82 games, but I struggled to be able to cover all 56 games. 82 is gonna be a lot harder because it's another 30 games. So but it'll be a challenge. Hopefully, as I continue to make videos, watching every Canes game more and more part of my routine, etc., etc. So good news there. Other item of note that I think is the good news, focusing on the channel. Okay, it's not bad. I would show you guys, but that would be rude. But on to the positives. This guy right here, Jacob Slavin, wins the Lady Byng. Long overdue. And I think there's going to be a fun video I do in a little bit, which is going to be all about um, awards I think the NHL should add, which I think should be defenseman that best exemplifies the defensive aspects of the game. I think that's one. I can do it here, fuck it, while I talk, because this involves Jacob Slavin and what I think he brings to hockey that's going to go unnoticed, and he's going to be an underrated player his entire career. But you have defensive defenseman who best, or basically an award for the best defensive defenseman, and then the Gretzky Award. I would name that award after Lidstrom, and then an award for most assists. I think those two awards should be added: the Gretzky Award, the Lidstrom Award. But I don't know if they ever will. But I think it would be. I think those are accomplishments that should be recognized. You have most goals, which I guess goals are more important, but if a goal happens because you're on the ice, that's just as good as scoring a goal to me personally. And you have one for most points, which obviously should be a very prestigious award. You have one for just general MVP. So you have one for best offensive forward, best defensive forward. You should add top defensive defenseman on the list. And often they have offensive defensemen. Put defensive defenseman. You got all the styles of play there. I mean, you could do best hitter, but the journalists would get upset. So we have the Jacob Slavin winning the Lady Byng, and Jacob Slavin would probably win the Lidstrom Award every year. I think Rope hints for Dallas. I know people talk about being a great defensive defenseman. I don't watch a lot of Dallas. Obviously, I watch 90% Hurricanes because when you're watching 56 games a year, it's harder to tune into other teams. One day of hockey can become my full-time job. Doubt it. Then, yeah, I'll be able to comment more on that. But there are other defensive defensemen that I feel deserve to be recognized for being able to keep the puck out of the net as well as they do. It's an overlooked skill, and to me, those guys are just as valuable as players. When you look at plays, the puck's trickling into the net, and the defenseman dives and swats the puck away. That's as good as a goal. He kept the other team off the board. That's as good as a goal to me if you're able to save a goal like that. The amazing shot block from I think it was an Islanders player this playoff. Correct me if I'm wrong. When I think it was the Tampa Bay player, he spun the puck around, was going to shoot it, and there was just this amazing diving save. So yeah, next item of note, I won't be able to cover the Stanley Cup Finals. I traveled too much to be able to watch every Stanley Cup final game consistently. Like I literally am in a different hotel room every night just based on the way my job situation is right now. So having to be home in time, or not home, in a hotel, that's my home now, or hotels, but home in time to check in, and then home in time to check in, be able to connect to the Wi-Fi, be able to follow the game closely when I got paperwork for work I got to do. I got to get up at 11 a.m. The Wi-Fi is probably going to be inconsistent. It takes a lot. It's too much to do consistently. I don't want to cover game one, miss game two, miss game three. I'd rather cover it all consistently. I'll do a video when the Stanley Cup is awarded. When there's a game where the Stanley Cup has a chance to be awarded, I'm watching it. I'll watch the presentation. Congratulations to Tampa Bay for winning game one. I mean, we can talk about the salary cap issue, which I'll get into the controversy here because I do want to tackle some controversies, and then I'm going to rant at the end of the game, at the end of the video. So, first off, the salary cap controversy. Do I think the NHL should do something about it? Maybe. It's a maybe to me. If the players aren't going to be getting paid that much for the playoffs, they do take a discount during the playoffs. They're 100% playing for the cup. Whether or not that's ethical, that's a different discussion. I think if the players are okay with it, I'm okay with it. There's so you have that going on right there where you have the salary cap issue. Do I think the NHL should do a rule about that? I don't know. To me, Tampa Bay found a loophole in a disadvantage. Their top two players were hurt, and then they realized that their top two players are hurt. We don't have to worry about the salary cap as much. And props to Tampa Bay for being able to turn that negative into a positive. I think that's good management. They found a loophole with the rule and the inconvenience of their best two players being hurt all season, Stamkos and Kucherov. I mean, it's not like David Clarkson came back for the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2014 or something if Toronto made the playoffs in 2014. It's literally a team finding a loophole with the rule that's technically not against the rules. And I don't think there should be an asterisk if Stanley Cup wins the next three games in their playoff series. They built that team, and props to them. And yeah, I'm not going to be too upset about it. It's a loophole. They did it this year. If you want to change, if they don't change it next year and it happens again, then you can complain. Then maybe people could start complaining, and there's a legit argument there. But I'm not going to take it out on the team or be like, "Oh, there's an asterisk." No, it's all the players. They're still battling for 4 7 game series. If they win a Stanley Cup over the cap, that's not an asterisk, maybe to the organization, but the players still fought. It takes a lot to win the Stanley Cup. Alec Martinez is playing with a broken foot, or did play, and they're probably, who knows what Kucherov has. He might do it again next year now that I'm talking, because Kucherov could very well be injured. Stamkos has been fighting injuries for the last 2 years. They're probably both banged up. Montreal's probably banged up. Corey Perry probably has like a concussion of some kind after that high stick, which I think is a good transition into the officiating. It's been utter dog shit, and I think it's progressively getting worse each year. I think 3 years ago, I started saying the officiating is so bad every team has a right to complain that they're getting screwed over. And they do. They're legitimately teams are legitimately getting screwed over, and it's not individual. If one team gets screwed over one game, that's acceptable. It happens. Hockey's a fast game. I can accept that. But when you have, in overtime, something as blatant as Corey Perry's high stick to the point where he's going to have a scar on his face from that. I think someone talked about, it looks like a scar is developing. Corey Perry's going to have a mark right there from the high stick. That should be a double minor for high sticking any day of the week. Not calling that has the same effect as not calling calling a penalty. You're deciding the refs are still deciding the game there. So if that's the argument, that's horseshit. And that's how they're told to officiate. And to me, I think officiating has I like chippy hockey. That's what I was great at, I mean, that's I was a dirty hockey player. I'm going to be 100% honest. I would cross check in between the pads and stuff. I liked when people did that to me because I was a lunatic. But I liked when refs let things go. I get that, but you got to be consistent. And there's letting things go, and there's letting things go. You can't, I don't care how you're calling a game. If a player gets high stick to where they have a scar, you need to call that. If you're Paul Byron and he hits someone head first into the boards, you need to call that. That's not chippy hockey. That's That's letting blatant shit go when you're going to lose control of the game. Not only that, they're still calling titty tap plays. Like how is that high stick on Corey Perry not a penalty, but if you slash the guy and his stick falls off, that's called. And if that's not if that like just it was an accident, I'm not gonna say it's blatant, but it was an accident. If that stick hitting the guy at Corey Perry in the face isn't a penalty, nothing's high sticking in hockey based on the way that was called. And it's like let the titty tat stuff go. If you wanna, let them play a little bit, which I kind of agree with, but you draw the line. I mean, honestly, I think there should be consistently, and the main issue is there's no consistency. That's because the way they're told to officiate. They're told to go officiate. I'm not a conspiracy theorist hockey. The officiating was so bad until people pointed out the specific Paul Byron play. I was wondering if Montreal was getting screwed in that series against Vegas. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. And I have the philosophy of you got to play through officiating. I still stand by that. That's why I don't talk about officiating a lot in my Hurricane reviews unless there's stuff insanely blatant. And if something is messed up, you change the rule quickly. Look, like they did with the Vegas situation. I think, on key plays, the officials should have as many opportunities to get it right as they can possibly can. And the NHL, when the Vegas incident happened with San Jose, where the San Jose player got injured, was bleeding all over the place, and the referees gave San Jose a 5-minute major. It shouldn't have been a 5-minute major, and you know what? Vegas still screwed up. They let in 4 goals in 5 minutes. That game's still on them. That's not an excuse. You play through the bad call, and if they let 1 or 2 in, fine. That's then you could maybe argue. But if you let 4 goals in 5 minutes, that's still on you. Bad call or not. So I don't buy that complaining that Vegas did that they got screwed. No, your penalty screwed you. And the NHL, they publicly apologized to Vegas, which they never apologized to any other team. And I mean, I don't think the NHL rigs things for Vegas, but I do think Vegas definitely is the NHL's favorite team. I'll say that. But and then they immediately changed it. But then the replay, which happens more often than not, last year with Carolina, it was, I don't blame this on the officials. It's the way the NHL was told to call it. So I'm not getting mad at the officials here on this specific play. I already ranted about officiating. But just the rule structure. So Boston scored a goal that should not have counted. It was either goalie interference or I think it was a high stick kick, something like that. Goal, like either way, the goal shouldn't have counted. And because Rod Brind'Amour had to pick one, then they called it a goal, and it was ridiculous. And have they changed the rule? Not that I know of. If they have, honestly, comment down below and point that out, and I'll correct myself in the next kind of news podcasty video I do. But yeah, you have that. And no, they don't. And then when Tom Wilson doesn't get suspended or anything, they fine Tampa Bay for calling out the fact that Tom Wilson slammed a guy on his head with no helmet on. And, if they're going to do stuff like that, you shouldn't try to face fighting out of the game. Because if Tom Wilson can do stuff like that, the Rangers should be allowed to retaliate, no suspensions whatsoever. And granted, the NHL let them retaliate and stuff, but then they're talking about how it's a disgrace to hockey. Well, if you think it's a disgrace to hockey, you got to suspend the guy for slamming someone's head on the ice without a helmet on. And, yeah, like the inconsistent suspensions. I mean, just the NHL overall is a huge problem. And then Gary Bettman, I think, has been. I'll get into actually, that'll be a separate video. Why I think Gary Bettman is honestly not a good commissioner. And people talk about how much he's grown the game. Okay, I'll do it now. They talk about how much Gary Bettman has grown the game of hockey. Yeah, I'll give him that. He has. But I think he's a bad commissioner because he's bad at growing the game of hockey. I'm just going to say it. You have, okay, here's what I'm saying. Other than baseball, which has stayed plateaued, which baseball's still bigger than hockey, by the way. But other than baseball, which is kind of plateaued out since for a long time, since Gary Bettman took over as NHL commissioner, basketball has surpassed hockey in terms of popularity. Football has grown so big, it's not even about the Super Bowl isn't even about the football game. Honestly, the football is so big. do not like watching the Super Bowl that much because there's a 30-minute concert where it's not even a full set. I don't know why people call it the biggest concert of the year. People talk more about the commercials. It's like it's I want to watch football when I tune into the Super Bowl. Like that's how it is. That's how I am when I watch a sport. I want to watch the sport. But football's the commissioner Roger Goodell has done a great job growing the game of football despite all the concussion controversy since he's taken it over. Is he a scummy person? Probably, but he's a good commissioner for football. The commissioners for basketball, they've done a great job growing the game. Have they rigged games to do it? Yeah, with Sacramento, but I don't think that one rigged game had too big of an influence on the growth of basketball. Actually, I think that probably hurt it. That's why I'm not tuning into basketball when games are if they're going to blatantly rig games and complain when Milwaukee's playing the Brooklyn Nets because the Lakers aren't in it. I'm not going to complain about that. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the big four sports since Gary Bettman's taken over, basketball's surpassed hockey because basketball used to be bigger than hockey, especially in the 80s and stuff. But basketball surpassed hockey. Basketball is now the second biggest sport in the world, and the football has grown definitely more than hockey has since Gary Bettman took over. He's not a good commissioner, and I mean, or the owners do a bad job because Gary Bettman's just the spokesperson for the owners. So also the owners aren't good owners at growing their own game. And, part of that is they have Arizona declare bankruptcy while Quebec is right there. I know I'm hypocritical cheering for a Southern market team, but Quebec will make a profit and Arizona's declaring bankruptcy. You tell me where you should put a team. And, Vegas was a success in the desert. I'll give them that. But I do think the expansion draft was too lenient for Vegas, and I think the only reason people thought they were going to be bad was the president. The precedent established in with expansion drafts, and going from Gary Bettman being a bad commissioner, you think having advertising an outdoor game this coming season, and then saying, "Oh nope, it's going to be in Nashville." This year instead of Carolina, you think that's going to grow the game because people always are fucking obsessed with it. Like, Jesus Christ, I swear to God, of every other month, I have to hear a whole conversation about this is bad for the game of hockey. There's nothing fucking wrong with hockey. It's the way the NHL's run. There's nothing wrong with the specific game itself, and except for the Chicago situation. I'm gonna get into that. So, but you have like, are you telling me literally canceling outdoor games for fans that were expecting outdoor games and were buying season tickets to go to that outdoor game? Are you telling me that's good for the game of hockey to then be like, oh, nope, and don't announce that before the season tickets are sold? I didn't even buy a season ticket, but that's bullshit. People wanted to go see that game and they're not able to. And not only that, they're still having an outdoor game in a southern market. It's ridiculous. I mean, really, to can and then they're not even going to say it's next year. They just straight up canceled the outdoor game for Carolina. I don't think we're going to get an outdoor game. I'm going to be honest. Like we were supposed to get it this year. They were saying, "Oh no, we canceled," but Carolina's going to get the outdoor game that was promised to them. I don't even know why we need the NHL's permission to get an outdoor game. If we book the venue, we have the venue booked. All right, we're playing on this day. Just fucking go there to pick a team. Like I don't know why they need permission to play an outdoor game, but whatever. I've never cared too much about outdoor games, but you want to talk about growing the game, canceling outdoor games for fans doesn't grow the fucking game. Give me a break. Um, yeah, so lastly, this is more serious. This is almost not even just a hockey issue to me. The Chicago stuff in 2010 with the sexual assault allegations. For those of you who don't know, Chicago basically is under like two players were sexually assaulted by a coach. Not only was the coach able to continue coaching, he ended up coaching a high school game and there got convicted of sexual assault of the 17-year-olds. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm not about stripping championships really, but I honestly do think maybe Chicago should have that championship stripped. But then again, then those two players lose their ring and those two players didn't do anything wrong. So I don't know, but the fact that there hasn't been any disciplinary actions and 11 years later they're having a quote unquote investigation, that's ridiculous. Like This is bigger than the game of hockey. This is bigger than winning a Stanley Cup. These are players' lives that we're talking about here. And they literally got sexually assaulted. They had to cover it up because they wanted to win a cup. I might do the same if I'm being honest, and it comes to pursuing the puck if I have a shot to win the cup. But it's still like the organization should have stepped up. Stan Bowman like literally covered it up, and I don't know why. Like, is locker room morale and their faith in you, are the players' faith in you more important, or is this random guy's faith in you more important? It's honestly ridiculous to me that like that decision doesn't make any sense to me. Why cover up Brian Aldrich's actions? And why hasn't the NHL? They've now done an investigation 11 years later. I mean, they're not even doing anything about, like, I don't consider that a good thing, the fact that they're launching an independent investigation. Like, honestly, if I was in charge, I would have started an investigation 10 years ago. It was an open secret. Those players went on to other teams. Like, it's not like just the Chicago, because all the players allegedly knew. And that being said, I don't blame players that knew, okay? Because what if your GM is intent on covering a sexual assault allegation up, and it probably was sexual assault given the fact that that guy has a history of being predatory toward players, i.e., literally sexually assaulting a 17-year-old, and that 17-year-old, he's damaged for fucking life because of Stan Bowman's actions. Stan Bowman honestly should be sent to prison because that 17-year-old boy was fucking assaulted because of his actions. It's fucking ridiculous to me how you can let something like that happen, especially in something as great as the game of hockey. To cover up sexual assault for not even an important, it's not even like it was the head coach, it was a fucking video coach. And to sit there and, like, what are you going to tell a 17-year-old and his family about the fact that a video coach sexually assaulted a 17-year-old? Like, it's just such a. This is the biggest black mark in the history of hockey, and it's bigger than hockey. Like, this is a black mark in sports in general. The fact that a team would cover up like that allegation. That's the closest I've ever come to being embarrassed being a hockey fan. The fact that an organization as prestigious as the Chicago Blackhawks, with some of my favorite jerseys in hockey, players that I grew up watching, 2010 was, I don't know how much I watched 2010, but I grew up watching some of those players. There are two players I probably watched and enjoyed watching who were assaulted, and the organization just let it happen and didn't do anything about it. And the players had to play knowing that their organization didn't have it out for them. And I mean, it's just, and the worst part is that 17-year-old kid. I mean, like, I probably was close to that age. If I was better at hockey, that could have been me. That could have been the guy sitting on the bench next to me. That could have been, like, just my opponent. I wasn't any good at hockey. I got nowhere close to the level that an NHL video coach would have been coaching, but I'm just saying, like, in general, if I got better at hockey, would that could have been me. And, part of me is thankful now that I didn't get any good at hockey, because I wouldn't want to be in that environment. But that 17-year-old, like, that guy potentially ruined his life, and Stan Bowman let it happen. Other coaches that let it slide let it happen. Anyone in that organization that knew, Joe Quenneville maybe let it happen. Mark Bergevin, he was a scout. I don't know how much, but he potentially let a 17-year-old boy um, get molested. So yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry to end on that dark note. I want to talk about a lot of the news because there had been a lot of news. My next video will probably be on my thoughts on what Carolina should do for the off season. Probably make a video on the Stanley Cup winner when it happens. But yeah, sorry to end on the grim note. I felt like venting on certain things going on in hockey, so I decided to record a video. This video went longer than I intended. I ended up talking about more topics than I thought I would, but yeah, I mean, this was kind of an unscripted thing, and yeah, I'll see you guys for my next video. See you guys soon. I don't know when it will be because just the constant connecting, disconnecting, and to hotel Wi-Fi's and stuff, but I don't know how much that has taken a toll on me, but yeah, it's just I'll see you guys soon.